Howard Caddy. The question I want to talk to you about briefly in this session is, where are you in your career life cycle? And why is this important? It's important to know where you are in your career life cycle because it changes the value set as well as the objectives of your career search. And that will impact your resume in terms of the objectives and the types of emphasis you put in it. And secondly, it'll impact how you interview when you get in front of the clients. The key is to always assess your strengths in your career life cycle and come up with the objective that's most important at that point in time. So let's talk about a couple of those things, and so for some of you, you may be familiar, but for others this will be helpful in trying to pinpoint which opportunities might be best for you. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is a product life cycle, where I modeled this from. The product life cycle is kind of a graph that's put together by marketing people to assess where things are in their product life cycle, so they can plan the pricing, the promotions, the advertising, the packaging, the sales strategy to maximize profit out of a given product. That was modeled after our life, actually, and how humans in all forms of life go through the cycle from birth to death. So the product life cycle breaks down the life of a product into multiple stages, and your strategy is determined at each particular stage. Now, we're not going to talk a lot about the product life cycle in this particular session, but you can see the stages. They're called stages. You have a development stage, you have an introductory stage, you have growth stage, maturity stage, and a declining stage. And as you go through those, sometimes they don't always go smoothly, but there are periods, and the length of time in each period depends on the product, the industry, etc. Now, what are the variables that are involved in product life cycles that we have to look at when we're talking about careers? Well, every product has a product life cycle. Sometimes they're startups, sometimes they're mature, sometimes they're dying. We have technologies that go through product life cycles. We have positions and we have tasks that go through product life cycles. Sometimes you may wonder why the jobs seemed to be fun in the past, but it's not as much fun now. Well, some of that is the fact that the job changes over the product life cycle as the company changes, etc., and you change over that product life cycle. So that does change the variables in terms of satisfaction and how you feel about the position. So if you look at the variables on the left-hand side, you have positions, tasks, projects, industries, companies, and even countries. In fact, in the global economy of the 21st century, countries are going through transitions and rising and falling, and therefore you have to take that into account when you look at your particular roles. Now, the most important person that goes through a product life cycle, and we're going to call it a career life cycle, is you. So let's talk about in terms of a career life cycle and break that apart into these sections. I have them alphabetically labeled, and A through E. So we have entry-level positions, we have early career positions, we have mid-level positions, manager, senior level, expert positions, maybe even entrepreneur, all fit into that category. And then we eventually have the senior circuit, I call it, or perhaps transitions where we're trying to do something else with our lives. And that would be the people that are more in the later stages, like myself, and trying to do something they really care about. So the first question we have to answer is, am I looking for a job right now, or am I looking for a career move? If you're looking for a job, then some of these variables aren't as important because you're really looking for some cash flow. You're trying to get yourself positioned and just stabilized. Maybe it's a port in the storm. But if you're looking for a career, then you need to think about, where am I in my life cycle, and what would be the position that would enhance me the best? So let's talk about each of the stages and see where that goes to. So if you're talking about a career, it's important to look at all the variables so that we can make the best move, which would eliminate us having problems such as a bad start, a bad position, a gap, a quick jump to a new job, etc. So here's some things that we should consider. First of all, where are you in your career life cycle? Once you've decided that, then you say, okay, which opportunities would be most advantageous for me in that part of my career life cycle? And therefore, how do I define my career goals in terms of accumulating skills or getting myself positioned or having a better return on investment, whatever is appropriate for what the stage you're in. So, in a product life cycle of products, industries, and companies, etc., sometimes you'll look in the marketplace and you'll say, well, right now there's too few openings and too many candidates. Is that just in my market, or is that in a lot of markets? Is the requirements too strict and I won't compete because I don't have enough education or experience or background or certifications? Therefore, my chances of making that a career become slimmer. Is the future prospects of the market I'm looking at good? Or is the market on a declining status so that even if I got in, perhaps it only takes me a year or two and I really don't have a future and I'll have to make a transition after that? And then finally, what red flags or risks are inherent in that particular market right now? Is it something that's going to be outsourced? Is it going to be something that's declining? It's going to be something that gets replaced by a different set of skills. So as you look at companies and jobs and products and industries and projects, try to assess what is their probability of success. Are they relevant to make the effort onto? And this has to do with selection of the right opportunities to pursue. Then we have the second part of it is, what are my particular goals and my specific situation where I am now? Am I going for more marketability? I'm trying to build up a background. Am I already past my mid-career, like I'm in my 30s and 40s, and I want to try to get some return on my investment? I want to get more management, more dollars, more title, balance of life, or whatever. We'll talk about it. Am I ready to run on my own and be an entrepreneur? Or do I have some personal priorities? Perhaps the family priorities are something I want to make time for. Maybe I don't want to travel as much. All these come into your decision as to what would be your personal goals. And then finally, a very important one that you should assess somewhere along the line is, what are my innate skills and strengths that have made me successful up until this point in my career, if you have some measurable ways to figure that out. And then how do I go with those strengths, because that energy flow, using those strengths, will be the easiest way for me to be successful in the future. So when you look at it, all the opportunities out in the marketplace, one person will say this opportunity is terrible and will leave it. Another person will look at that opportunity and say, that's a great opportunity in a mature company because it fits who I am, what I want to accomplish at this point in my life. So every opportunity in the market is relative. You have to decide what is the most appropriate group for you, and that's how you tune your resume, and that's how you tune your interviewing.